Another terrifying crash, another driver flipping through the air, and once again, questions about safety in NASCAR. This time it was Ryan Preece who found himself airborne, just like he did in 2023. But this is not just about one driver. This is about the entire sport and the risks that come with it. The Daytona 500 is known for speed, action, and unpredictable moments, but it's also known for violent wrecks. Cars reaching speeds of over 190 miles per hour, racing inches apart, means that one wrong move can send a driver into the wall, spinning through the air, or worse. Fans love the excitement, but no one wants to see a driver get seriously hurt. That is why Preece's crash has everyone talking. In 2023, during the Coke Zero Sugar 400, Preece's crash was one of the worst in recent memory. With just 5 laps to go, his car flipped through the air, rolled across the infield grass, and finally came to a stop in flames. It was shocking, it was brutal, and yet, Preece somehow walked away without major injuries. NASCAR responded. They repaved the grass area at Daytona to prevent the same thing from happening again. But less than 2 years later, it happened again. This time, Preece's car did not just roll over, it went airborne, then slammed hard into the wall. The impact was horrifying. Fans watched in silence as his car finally came to a stop. Everyone was thinking the same thing. How did he survive that? Preece later admitted that in those terrifying seconds, he was thinking about his daughter. He knew how lucky he was to walk away, but luck should not be a part of the safety equation in NASCAR.
The thing I want to say as a father, as a racer, is we keep beating on a door hoping for a different result, and I think we know where there's a problem at super speedways. So I don't want to be the example of when it finally does get somebody. I don't want it to be me. You know, I got a 2-year-old daughter, and just like a lot of us, we have families, so something needs to be done, because cars lifting off the ground like that, I mean, that felt honestly worse than Daytona in 23. So,
Elton Sawyer, NASCAR's Senior Vice President of Competition, spoke about the crash. He assured fans that NASCAR was investigating. They would examine Preece's car, talk to his team, and decide if safety changes were needed. Sawyer pointed out that the safety features did their job. The car structure stayed intact, and Preece walked away. Daytona has a long history of brutal wrecks. Cars going airborne is nothing new, but the way Preece's car lifted this time was different. It almost looked like a wheelie on a motorcycle before it twisted in the air and smashed into the outside wall. This is what has drivers worried. Some fans argue that NASCAR should act immediately, while others believe that as long as drivers are surviving, the current safety measures are good enough. One of the biggest talking points from the race was why NASCAR didn't throw a caution flag on the final lap. The Daytona 500 is one of the most important races in the sport, and the ending of a race always plays a major role in how fans and drivers react. During the last lap, Denny Hamlin and Austin Cindric were involved in a crash, which led to William Byron crossing the finish line first and winning his second consecutive Daytona 500. Many expected NASCAR to throw a caution flag, but officials let the race continue under green flag conditions. Elton Sawyer explained that NASCAR's top priority is always to finish races under green flag conditions whenever possible. We as fans pay to see exciting finishes, and drivers want the chance to race to the checkered flag. Sawyer mentioned that once the white flag comes out, meaning the race is on its final lap, things get even more intense. Drivers take more risks, push harder, and fight for position with everything they have. This aggressive racing often leads to accidents, especially at a superspeedway like Daytona, where cars are packed close together at high speeds. Sawyer also praised NASCAR's race directors for making quick and difficult decisions. The goal is always to get drivers safely back to the start-finish line, while also making sure safety teams can respond quickly if needed. If a crash happens behind the main pack and doesn't pose an immediate danger to the leading cars, officials may decide not to throw a caution flag. This was the case in the 2025 Daytona 500. NASCAR reviewed the situation and determined that the crash did not require a caution because it did not directly impact the battle for the win. Even though NASCAR explained its reasoning, not everyone agreed with the decision. Some felt that safety should always come first, no matter the excitement of a race finish. Others believed that if NASCAR had thrown a caution, the final moments of the race would have been less thrilling. This is the balance NASCAR has to find in every race, keeping the competition exciting while also making sure drivers are safe. Another controversy from the Daytona 500 involved Kyle Busch and NASCAR's damaged vehicle policy. This policy is meant to prevent severely damaged cars from continuing in a race unless they meet certain conditions. Under the 2025 rules, if a car cannot leave the scene of an accident on its own, it must be towed to the garage. Once in the garage, the team has one opportunity to repair the car and attempt to meet the minimum speed requirement. If the car fails to do so or returns to the garage a second time, it's eliminated from the race. Kyle Busch was caught in a multi-car crash with 15 laps to go, which also involved Joey Logano and Ricky Stenhouse Jr. After the accident, Busch's car had 4 flat tires, meaning he could not drive it back to pit row on his own. He needed assistance, but when a NASCAR official arrived with the equipment needed to lift the car, the air tank was empty. Because of this mistake, Busch had to be towed back instead of driving himself, which caused frustration for him and his team. Busch was further angered when he learned that once his car was taken to the garage, he could only get one chance to go back on the track.
Got beat by NASCAR procedures again, just not being able to get back out on the racetrack. I have 4 flat tires out there, and we have these air jack systems in the car, mandatory by NASCAR, and the guy carries around an empty air bottle plug up to the car. So couldn't plug it up so I could make my own return back to pit road. Said I just wanted to push, so they decided for 3 laps to figure out how to hook it up to tow us back in. Towed us into a work area where our guys reviewed the car, looked over the car, didn't see anything massively wrong. All the wheels were pointed in the right direction. We put 4 new tires on it to go back out to basically see what the next process was going to be for us, and then was told that if you need to work on it and repair it, you got to go back to that place. But if you go back to that place, they park you. So what are we supposed to do to continue to work on it now that we've got 4 new tires on it and all the wheels are pointed in the right direction?
Elton Sawyer responded to these complaints by explaining that the rules had not changed much from 2024. The only difference was that teams were given an extra minute to make repairs, increasing the time from 6 to 7 minutes. The biggest rule that impacted Busch was the restriction on returning to the garage. If teams were allowed to go in and out of the garage multiple times, it could be used as a loophole to keep fixing a damaged car instead of following the repair time limits. NASCAR wanted to prevent teams from exploiting the system by continuously working on a car and then re-entering the race without meeting the required speed. Sawyer mentioned that NASCAR had multiple meetings with teams and drivers before the season to explain the rules. Many drivers asked questions to clarify what was allowed, but Busch still felt that the way his situation was handled was unfair. He believed his car was still in good enough condition to continue, but was forced to retire from the race because of a misunderstanding over the rules. So, what comes next? We'd love to hear your thoughts, so make sure to write them right now. And while you're down there, don't forget to hit that subscribe button as well.